Welcome to ALD's Career Conversation. Last year, we updated our tagline to taking you from first year to career. So this series really looks to do that and to examine kind of where students are now and then the path it takes you to get to a career in CIS and SCM. So we're super excited to feature our alumni like Rachel. But we're also excited to have our students join us and or watch afterward to learn more about the transition from that first year to career. So start by introducing myself. I'm Trish. I'm the Director of Communication at the National Office. And we have here today Rachel Larson. She was inducted into ALD in 2015 at Western Michigan's University. She majored in both computer info systems and supply chain management. And she's currently a profitability and excellence engineer at Stanley Black & Decker. So just to kind of break the ice a little bit, Rachel, I'm going to ask you a couple of quirky questions. So if you could eat one meal for the rest of your life, what would it be?
That's a great question. And I'm a big foodie, so this really means a lot to me. But I would have to go the really simplistic route and say grilled cheese, because there is a variety of different ways that you could approach it with like the different breads, the different cheeses, and even any additions that you want to put in there too, like bacon or ham or even like chicken too. So you can just really make it your own, and it's a nice foundation to make it whatever you want.
That is pretty classic. So if COVID were to magically disappear and you won an all-expense week-long vacation, where would you go?
Oh, that is a really hard one, but I think that I would have to choose Norway. A lot of my roots came from Norway, just like back in the day, right? When everything was a thing. I had a lot of my ancestors come from Norway, and I have lots of pictures of them just really enjoying themselves there. And one of the biggest things that I want to see are the fjords. So that's something that my fiance and I are planning on doing once we get married, potentially like a honeymoon. But I was able to go there on a cruise a few years ago, and the culture there was absolutely amazing, and I was able to make a lot of friends. So definitely going to Norway.
Awesome. And what did you want to be when you were younger?
Oh, yeah. What I wanted to be was a lawyer, because I love to argue with my parents, just like any young child, right? But yeah, I really wanted to be a lawyer. But look where I am now.
I know, completely different.
Yes.
So I know how involved you were in ALD, but I don't think everyone else does. So can you kind of walk us through what role ALD played in your undergraduate experience?
Yeah, sure. So after I was given my offer letter to join ALD, I immediately accepted and was just ecstatic beyond belief, because I was excited to be a part of something on campus, because I was still trying to find my place, especially being a first year student. And in doing so, I just really had the guts to email the president and say, hey, do you need anybody on your e-board too? And so thankfully, at the time I got lucky and I was able to hop on as historian as I was getting inducted into ALD. And ever since, I've been a part of it as historian, and then vice president, and then president my senior year. And ALD was able to be a consistency throughout my college career, where I made friends from different colleges, different majors, different backgrounds, and we were able to come together for one purpose, and that was really to positively impact our community. And in doing so, we not only just grew, but we also grew our ALD family to across the campus, where we could invite others to be there for an organization that they feel passionate about, and we could support them in those initiatives. So I think ALD has done a phenomenal job and a huge impact on my college career. But even now as an adult, I've been a part of Stanley's leadership program, where I rotate every 8 to 10 months. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, I always struggle to find my place, because it's hard to make adult friends, especially if they're not looking for friends too. So
right, sure.
Something that I did was every location, I looked for nonprofits in the area that I was excited about. And so in my first rotation in Maine, I volunteered at a soup kitchen every Sunday. And then I was able to even bring that into work. And for my last day, we were able to have a volunteer event with everybody at the facility. Second rotation, it was an animal shelter. And then right now, I'm being sworn in to be a court-appointed special advocate for foster care children. So now, yeah, ALD has really just lit this fire that has been continuing ever since.
That's really, can you talk about a little bit about your two majors and the academic experiences you had for both computer information systems and supply chain management, and how they help prepare you for your career?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when I started off in college, I was initially a music education major, and I had my heart set on being a band director. My primary instrument was flute, started taking private lessons for like trumpet and all of that. So after the first semester, I realized that I really needed to be challenged more, and that I was looking for something a little bit different. And so I made my way over to the business college and made an appointment with a counselor. And I just asked them straight up, what's your most difficult major here? And so when they responded, a little taken aback, they said, well, I think supply chain management. And so coming to learn what supply chain is, it primarily focused in operations, logistics, and purchasing. And so there's a variety of different ways that you can go within supply chain, because essentially almost everything in a business has to do with the supply chain. Whether you're at sales, that's how we get the end product to the user. Or maybe you're in the plant and you're helping the actual components be made to be put into a final product, everything from start to finish. But then accompanying supply chain, I also realized that I had a real knack for computer information systems and programming. And that's something I had no idea that I was capable of. And so when I took my introductory course to computer information systems, started to learn about formulas and, Excel, VBA, PHP, I then felt like I was in the right place because I was understanding the tools that I could use in almost any setting through computer information systems, but also finding a place to apply it in the supply chain realm.
Yeah, so, and I initially had asked you, if you had to classify your job as more CIS or supply chain, which one? And you said, kind of both. So can you talk about how they intersect where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So as a profitability excellence engineer, that's a lot of gobbledygook. Just to say that I tear down like actual units of Stanley Black & Deckers. And like, for example, here, I have a nice little prop that I can show you. So this is one of our vacuums and it's in my portfolio. So what I do is I literally tear this down, take apart all of the screws, the filters, the motors and everything to understand, can this component be changed? Can we look at a different material? Why does it have to be like this? Can we redesign it? And all of those questions would effectively result in potential cost savings. And in those potential cost savings, we never want to reduce our quality by any means, but we also want to make sure that we meet our customers' needs while satisfying our marginal needs. So in doing so, I have those conversations with engineering while having my supply chain background to understand, I know we've been having supply issues on our motor. Can we try something a bit different, maybe from this supplier or something along those lines, which kind of puts you over and heads above the rest when asking for different changes, because they realize, yeah, we do have a problem here. It probably would make sense to move forward in a different direction. And on top of that, like managing changes. So whenever we are able to go through with an opportunity for improvement, then we'll be able to like look at our inventory, making sure that we're on schedule to save when we say that we're going to be able to save that money. And then, so that's like supply chain aspect.
Right.
But then the computer informations aspect has, I've been a lifesaver for my team, as they like to call me, because there's quite a few manual procedures that we need to do, especially within Excel, where I've been able to automate it through VBA, as well as presenting up to VPs and president of our business units to show them exactly what we're doing in more of like a dashboard format. So it's a bit easier to read rather than looking at a lot of numbers and maybe like a few million cells in Excel. So by doing that, I'm able to communicate the changes that I am making on the ground level.
Yeah, and making that data a little more friendly, right?
Exactly.
Nice. So talk about, any internships or undergraduate research that you kind of did along the way to get you, from your first year, changing your major, to your first career at Stanley Black & Decker.
Yeah, sure. When I was in that transition period between music education and business, I joined the Bronco marching band and just had a tremendous amount of friends there and got to understand a little bit more about what they were passionate about while also like juggling their passion for music, because what I always went to growing up was my passion for music. I thought that's really where I wanted to dedicate my life because it saved my life. And so when realizing that others could still have that passion for music while doing something else for a living, that intrigued me, and which made me ask more questions to myself to find that right fit. And now, I'm so sorry, I forgot the question.
Internships, any undergraduate research, kind of what major-based stuff did you do to kind of excel you into your career?
Yes. So once I hopped into the business bandwagon, I found an opportunity to work at the Hayworth College of Business with the supply chain organization, Bronco Force. So that was an internal consulting company where students would be leads at local manufacturing facilities, and they would implement lean projects and cost savings opportunities. And so I started out at the bottom being like a marketing coordinator because I was still trying to familiarize myself with what supply chain really was. And then afterwards, I was able to work my way up into a lead position that following year, where I had my co-op and internship with Tenneco Automotive. And in doing so, I was able to lead a $14 million new product development line, which included 3 different cells, included a lot of different automated operations and even welding as well. So I was able to work on the engineering aspect as well as the material handling in terms of having a water spire deliver materials, as well as leveraging our tugger route, which was another opportunity that I was investigating as well. But that gave me that manufacturing experience to really appreciate how something could turn from a raw material into a final product. And then I also had an internship with Marathon Automotive as a global procurement intern in Canton, Ohio. And when I was doing that, it was a completely different setting because I was in the office and I was just sitting in a chair rather than like going out to the plant, seeing everybody, making friends. So it was really, really different, which was, good and bad, right? So I understood, I'm a people person. I need my people. At the same time, I like the work that I'm doing because this is more computer information systems based, where I was able to automate a lot of the manual operations that we were doing. And I was able to really create something that maybe I wasn't able to on the manufacturing level. I was able to manage things there. So there's that people, but I didn't really get to create the things that really made me happy. So those experiences made me realize that I'm not 100% sure on what I want, which is why it took me into a rotational program with Stanley Black & Decker. Because again, we move every 8 to 10 months into different locations and into different roles to really see what's the best fit for you and what you need in your role to succeed.
And how long, like how many rotations are there? I think you've been through what, 3 now, or?
Yes, 3 of them. You got it.
Attention.
Yeah, those 3 rotations, honestly, they went by so fast, and they're 8 to 10 months. So you feel like, oh, I can't do a lot there. But honestly, like the first rotation, I was able to recommend and partially implement a vertical lift module at a manufacturing facility, which maybe some of you don't know, but probably most of you, which is fine. But it's a huge beast of a machine that will automatically make it easier to provide parts to you and organize it better. And then in my second rotation, I was able to lead a vendor integration process, which was worth about $35 million. So there was a significant amount of products that I was able to do in such a short period of time that I wouldn't have been able to do right now. So, yeah.
So is the rotation model pretty standard for your industry, or is it something kind of unique that you found with Stanley Black & Decker, or?
Yeah, it is. I think pretty common now, at least for like supply chain and computer information systems.
Okay.
And that's, I think, because honestly, and this is just my opinion and feel free to disagree, I feel like when we're in college, we're almost pressured to know what we really want to do with the rest of our lives without having the knowledge or full vast of experiences to know what we want. And of course, our wants and needs are going to change. And in even order to like determine what we need or want, we need to have that experience. And so one way to get it on a fast track is to continuously have new experiences and to sign up for a program like a rotational program.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I wish they had that in my field. So are there things that students can do to kind of prepare for a career? So like, are there professional associations they should join? Are there like leadership courses or certifications that they should look into? Anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that if you're looking to go more of like the supply chain route, I would encourage you to get involved with your local supply chain club, or if there isn't one at your university, maybe to reach out to APICS. They usually have a lot of branches almost everywhere in the States, or there's even ISM, of course, just depending on like where you're interested in, where you want to go. ISM is more of a purchasing organization, whereas APICS is more of like an operations. But then in terms of computer information systems, if you're looking to go that route as well, I would just highly encourage you to go to GitHub and just really learn how to program, maybe look at like RStudio, Python, and just really get experience there. Because once you're in a position, whether it's primarily driven towards computer information systems, or if it's a different role, which would further enhance you with your computer information systems knowledge, having that background will allow you to succeed and put your hands up for things that maybe others won't be able to because they didn't put forth that effort to begin with.
That's really great. So did you, kind of along that line, did you have any mentors, either formal or informal in the field, and how did you find them? Or if you didn't, and someone wanted one, how would you recommend that they go about finding one?
I'm really glad that you asked this question, Trey, because right now we are launching an internal mentorship program within Stanley Black & Decker, primarily focused on emotional intelligence and social emotional learnings. And if had I known everything that I would have known now, I would have done so many things different in college. And so I would highly encourage everybody to maybe take a step back and reflect on maybe some of the people that you would like to be when you're grown up. And they don't necessarily have to be anybody that you've met before. Maybe it's Elon Musk, and you can take a look at his career path to understand where he went and how he got to be where he is today. And in doing so, you almost create a mentor in your resource and your research. And once you understand a little bit more about what you're looking for, then I would encourage you to pivot your thought process and your insights into what you have right now. And that's usually like your professors. Maybe if you have a co-op, maybe it's your manager, to see if they have a similar way of their career, or maybe it's completely different and that it just intrigues you and you'd like to learn more. Feel free just to have those conversations and almost treat each moment like it's your last, so you can really feel and make that genuine connection with somebody. Because not only when you do that, you get to have a new friend or a new mentor, if you'd like to, put a label on it, but you also get a new friend who you can come back to later on down the line in your life. Whereas, like, if you have a question in your professional career, you can say, hey, I remember you having experience in X field. can you give me a little bit more information? I was just placed in this role. And I'm sure that they would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have or give you additional insight into their experiences. So just try to leverage your network and to continue to grow it, not even just with professors or managers, but also your colleagues, right? So your other college students. A lot of people have different experiences. Like I told you before, I'm volunteering with CASA, which is the Court Appointed Special Advocate Agency. And in doing so, I'm realizing a lot of people grow up in a different environment, which gives them a different perspective. And in some cases, almost forces people to grow up a little bit more in a different way. So they have a different perspective. So just really utilize your network and continue to grow it.
Yeah, and I think like when I was an undergrad and a young professional, I was always nervous to kind of ask the mentors, like, oh, I don't want to bother them, or, that type of thing. But I think, people love to talk and love to talk about what they do, right? So I think you almost have to get over that initial fear, because when you do ask those questions and when you do, tap a colleague and say, hey, I don't know much about this, but I know you do. What do you think? They are incredibly valuable resources. So that's a really good point, Rachel, using that network.
Thank you.
So what advice would you have for students going into both CIS and, supply chain and or integrated? So what advice do you have for them?
I would highly recommend everybody to get experience and definitely try different areas. So if you're in supply chain, try to go out to that manufacturing plant, see if you like that type of environment, because really it's its own world. They honestly use different language. And I guess that can almost happen in every other business, but you almost feel the language entirely different than you would in a different setting. But then I'd also encourage you to go to more of a corporate setting. Maybe you feel better in dress pants and a clean office and a really like a space for you to be you. But again, just try to find out what you like, what you don't like. And every experience is a step in the right direction of figuring out where you want to go and who you want to be. So just really be open to that whole process, and just really continue to leverage that network too, because you can learn through everybody else's learnings as well.
That's smart. So Rachel, if you were sitting in my chair, what's a question that you would ask you, the expert, that I maybe haven't asked you yet?
Oh, okay. I would say that something that maybe a lot of people early in their career would experience is maybe trying to influence without power. So a lot of us, when we start out, we're usually in these entry-level roles. We can't always start out at the top, right? Unless we're starting our own company, in which case kudos to you. But usually, like for myself, I'm an engineer, so I'm at the bottom of the totem pole on the organizational chart, which is totally fine. I don't mind where I am. But at the same time, I have to have conversations with engineering, with marketing, with global supply management, and even with the plants, and almost align them to think almost the same way that I am. So trying to influence what I want them to know, if that makes sense. So it's not manipulation, but it's really painting a picture for them to see what you need to see in order to move forward with the change. And since I don't have any direct reports and I don't have a director or a VP in my title, it can be a bit different to establish that type of influence. So what I would encourage everybody who is in that type of position is to really build that rapport with those who you're going to be working with. And whether that's a 15, 25-minute meeting with them, just to understand who they are, what their background is, and how they think, that whole conversation will give you the data points you need in order to fix the conversation in a way that would make sense to the person you're speaking with, as well as maybe get to that desired outcome that you need.
Awesome. Well, I have a few more questions in case students don't, but I want to open it up. So if any of the students, if you want to come on the screen, if you want to type in the chat, if there's anything you'd like to know from Rachel, let us know. I'm going to ask one real quick. So we look at the state, we ask like, what's your state of your field today? So like, how has, I know the economy's been a little rough, has it been impacted? Have you seen any trends with COVID, or I guess, where are y'all at right now?
Yeah. Well, we are better than what we originally anticipated, which is good. So for Stanley Black & Decker, since we sell a lot of products in Home Depot and in Lowe's, a lot of people, a lot of DIYers were going out and trying to build that deck that they've been saying that they want to for the past 3 years, and they got it done. Or maybe they want to, do some other fixer-up things in their house. That's actually been a huge source of where we've been able to come up from. And in doing so, it's actually put some constraints on our supply. So that's a good problem to have, right? But overall, we are doing better than initially expected. Of course, COVID does impact everybody, and we are still fighting through that. But overall, better than expected. So cautiously optimistic for the rest of the year.
I'm calling in from Randolph-Macon College in Ashland, Virginia. I just had a quick question. I wanted to ask specifically about the field computer information systems, and what does that entail? Is it basically knowing how to work with large databases?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So that can be working with databases. Maybe it's an Access, or maybe you have like a SQL server, or trying to get your hands around stuff like that. But ultimately too, it can also help you with machine learning and like manipulating data, understanding the formulas to turn maybe a data dump of hundreds and millions of rows and columns into something that is more visual, makes sense to the higher ups, maybe in a business, but you really make the data make sense.
All right, cool. Thank you. Making data make sense. I love that. I love that summary. I'll be thinking of more questions, but I just want to ask. It's like, do you mind if we connect with you on LinkedIn?
Oh, yes, feel free. Love that. And if you have any questions, maybe that weren't able to be asked during this time, feel free to message me. I'm very responsive on there. But yeah, would love the connection.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thanks, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, she's a really good one to be in contact with. So can second that. So before we wrap up, I guess, what would you say has been your most rewarding experience in your career so far?
I think the most rewarding experience that I've been able to have is building relationships across the company in different parts of the world. I have connections in China, Australia, Africa, EU, in, of course, North America, and even South America. So I truly do have friends across the world, both at work as well as in my personal life, because of the relationships, rapport that I've been able to establish within Stanley Black & Decker. And I really encourage everyone else just to really flex themselves in maybe the ways that their job title may not initially allude to. And so if you are in operations, go talk to that other person in finance. Maybe they posted something really interesting in social media. Get to learn a little bit more about them, so then you can learn more about the business and ultimately learn more about yourself.
Great advice. Great advice, Rachel. Well, I want to thank the students for attending. I know you are so busy with school and you're probably overtaxed online, with the virtual learning that a lot of you are doing. So I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time to, listen in on our conversation with Rachel today. And Rachel, thank you, not only for all you've done for ALD, but all you continue to do for ALD. We appreciate your experience, and I hope everybody has a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coordinating, Trish. Happy to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining, and feel free to connect on LinkedIn.
Great. Thanks, Rachel.
Yep. Thank you, guys.